Okay, Aaron, in this video, we're going to look at your game where you had the white pieces played on the 10th of April 2025. Your rating was 1137. Your opponent had a rating of 1138 and was named Mauzayat 2. And you opened, as always, with the E-pawn. And your opponent played the Sicilian. Knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, d6, and bishop b5, pinning the knight.
Yeah.
He breaks the pin. d3 to get the other bishop in the game. Knight f6, and you play the bishop there. All good
Yeah.
so far. g6, he wants to develop his bishop to g7. You castle, he develops, and you strike in the center. All good so far.
Nice.
Take, take, and knight e5.
Okay.
You decide to take on f6. You don't have to, but you decided to do that. Bishop takes, and knight d5.
Okay.
He doesn't want to lose his bishop. He drops it back, and you decide to swap on d7. Now, all good so far. Both players have played good moves. We've swapped some material. Position is about equal. And now it's here you this is let's spend a few minutes on this position. What is we have to make a plan, and that's one of the most difficult things in chess. Let's look at the position and let's talk about the characteristics and let's come up with a plan.
Okay. So the first thing I do is queen to d2.
Why?
Is that connecting the rooks, finishing development, trying to get my pieces in? I've got a diagonal to a5, a diagonal to g5. You know,
Yep,
that's what I'm thinking.
queen d2. It's a reasonable move for what you mentioned. Okay, let's look at other candidate moves. Anything else that you say, and maybe not so. Yeah, any other candidate moves or any other ideas,
Well,
any other
I,
plans here?
the square on c7 with a fork. Okay, I can't do it yet, but it's something to be rememberable of. I also talked about queen to g5. I know the knight on d5. The queen was to ever move. There's a checkmate in one maybe there.
Well, queen to
Um,
g5. How do you do that?
so queen to g5, and let's say
Well,
if the queen
that's a
was
bit of a crooked move, isn't it, Aaron? Queen cannot go to g5 in one move.
oh no, I meant sorry. If it was from d2, I meant sorry first.
Ah, okay.
That's why I said d2 because if it's there, I can get to e7 supported by the knight if the queen ever move. I know the pawn on f can move, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what
Okay.
else? What else am I thinking?
But instead
Uh,
of queen d2, anything that strikes the eye here? Any characteristics of the position?
uh, d5 to f6. I know the pawn can take, but that's a nice little fork if I could able to do it. Checks, no. Hold on. Okay, so let me think. Is there a sacrifice somewhere?
No, there's no immediate. There's no. I'm not looking for a tactic here. There's no immediate win or immediate brilliant move. I'm more talking about how do we go from here? How can we improve our position? You played queen d2, which is a reasonable move, connecting the rooks and giving the queen a bit more uh, scope. And I was just looking for another plan, another idea in this position.
Do I start moving pawns? Do I move the c pawn a bit coming up? I think the fact that I've only got two knights. I know it plays a huge part in the end game, but it's hard, man. Like because when you've got a bishop and a knight, there's versatility. Where here, it's
Okay.
So
It, there's, indeed, we have to find a way. It's a very equal position, very balanced, not much happening, very positional. He still has to castle, but there's no way we can prevent that.
how about rook to e1, e1.
And what is your idea with that move?
So f1 to e1. So the king hasn't castled yet. Okay, can in the next move, but it's semi-open, isn't it? Because I've only got one pawn, but the knight's there. I don't know. Bringing
Yeah,
the rook into the game.
in this case, a lot needs to happen before the e-file opens up, right? By that time, he'll have
Yeah.
castled. So I understand what you're saying. Okay, I think I'd like Queen D2. I think that's a good move. Rook E1, I'm not so sure. Nothing's going to happen to that king on the 8. This there's a way to. I might want to move that nice centralized knight away. I was looking at a move like F4. They're talking about pushing pawns. Just kick that knight
See,
away from the center.
I thought
Not
that, but then I thought, like, not your fault, not chess fault, but I thought in the previous game, like, do I really want to open? I know I'm not being attacked, but by doing that, am I exposing my king a bit?
Yeah, well, you make a fair point, and it's true. And maybe you want to play if you play a 4, you maybe want to play King H1 later, just to give the king that you don't get suddenly a check on this diagonal by the queen or something or by the bishop. So definitely, when you push pawns, you have to be careful because pawns don't move backwards. So I'm not saying it's a brilliant move. I'm just pointing it out as a way to dislodge that knight from the central square. It's an idea, but you very rightly say, do you really want to do that? Because the king in the future we might regret pushing the f pawn if the king becomes a bit drafty there in the future. So I'm not saying it's a brilliant move. I'm just pointing it out. It's
Yeah.
one plan. Uh, I like your queen d2 as well. You're not committing any pawns yet. You played b3, and I've worked with you long enough that in case that many times when you don't know what to do, you grab your b pawn.
Is it to prepare the c pawn? Is it
That's what
like a
that
pawn?
comes next. Yeah, that
Oh,
comes next. So maybe that's a bit of expansion on the queen side. So it's it's not so bad. He
yeah.
castled, and indeed you played c4, grabbing some space, as the grandmasters call this. Grabbing some space on that side of the board. Um, yeah. So it's a very quiet position. This is a positional game. There's no crazy tactics. There's no king side. Both kings are perfectly safe. There's no checkmates anywhere. This is a positional game. He played queen g4, and now suddenly that's a very bad move because now suddenly there is a check captures attack situation.
Knight to e7.
Thank you very much for the pawn.
Did
Just
I
giving
take that?
away. You played it, yeah.
Yes.
And not only it's a pawn, also now this guy becomes weak. He lost his protection from the e pawn. Suddenly he has a weak d pawn. So that's another target for you to play on. He has to move
Nice.
the king, and now you play f4. Oh, that's the move that I suggested.
Hey.
And he decides to get the queens off the board. Of course, he cannot play. Why cannot he? Why can he not play his knight away? That's attacked. You're
What can't he
attacking
play?
his. He
Yeah.
cannot. Why can he not play his knight to save square?
Is it because there's not any? But he can move it to d7, can't he?
He can, but what do you play then?
Oh yeah, it's protecting the queen. So if he
Exactly,
moves it, I get he leaves the queen hanging.
exactly, exactly. That's why. That's so he has a way out because it looks like he's in trouble because his queen is his knight cannot knight is attacked and cannot play because then the queen is hanging. But of course he can take on
Makes a bit.
d1 first, you
Yeah.
recapture, and then he saves his knight. So that's a way he get out of that. And he's threatening a fork himself now.
Oh.
So suddenly, three moves ago, we had a positional position where nothing was happening, and now suddenly we have tactics. appearing.
And one of my
You,
weaknesses, I can't I can't see the knight what it can do. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this fork happens and I lose a rook. To be fair,
yeah, you lose an exchange, don't you? Indeed, you push the F pawn and you. What do you do if
yeah.
you see the knight fork? What do you?
Uh,
What's the move here?
I move a rook to the E1.
Yeah, exactly. Either rook, maybe this one because you want to keep this one on the rooks like open files. So you move the F rook to E1 and you're better because you have an extra pawn and he has a weak D6 pawn. So yeah, he played F5 and he says, I'm gonna win the exchange. The game's not over because you played F6
Yeah,
and yeah, here he blundered. It was very tactical. And again, only a handful of moves ago, we had a very calm position, and now there's mad tactics appearing. And what he should have done is take the pawn first, attacking your knight.
yeah,
So you have to take there, and then he takes there, and black is what is he? An exchange up for
yeah.
a pawn.
But instead, I did a little in between move, didn't I? In a way,
He took on F1 straight away,
yeah.
and that's the
Well,
mistake because you had the in-between move.
I took a
Exactly.
check.
You
I
took with
took a
check,
check.
a piece with
Yeah,
check. He has to take,
you have to respond, and then I took that piece.
and you took back. And now you
So
are, yeah.
I'm better, aren't I? In a way, same points, but
Yeah, you have two knights for the rook. So that is a
but the
slight
thing is
material advantage.
if you went the other line, it would have been an exchange up. But we went the other line, and now at least I got something for my troubles.
Well, yeah, you don't even have troubles. Your material up now. He he didn't play the attack. He didn't play the position in this. After you played
I'm a,
f6, this was your last move. He should have first
yeah,
taken that pawn, and then he ends up an exchange up. But he miscalculated the tactics.
I'm a tactical genius, Rick.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
always said that. So that will be the title of this video. I'm a
you're
tactical
right.
genius.
Yeah,
Rook, uh, he
right.
attacks your knight, and that's a beautiful knight. Look at this. This is the most beautiful piece in the history of chess.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's protected, and it cannot never be attacked by one of his pawns. A knight like that is worth more than a knight, you know. Unfortunately, it does cost you a pawn,
Of course.
but you're still better here. He's attacking your other knight, so you save that guy. It's always good to put your pieces on protected squares. Now they're both protected.
Yeah.
Although there was a better square. I there's what's a better square for this knight than
Oh,
f3? Let me think
B5
about and why?
because it attacks the pawn on D6 and A7.
Exactly. Yeah, and you win a pawn.
It's
Yeah,
all there, Rick. It's all there for the taking, man.
it's
Bloody
all there
hell.
for the taking. Yeah,
And we're not talking about 1800 tactics. We're talking about just taking a couple of pawns, possibly.
yeah, and you had the time. He played a5, knight g5, attacking the rook, rook e5, knight back, rook f5. And oh, this is a nice tactic. This is not an. This is a bit more advanced tactic, but it's quite pretty. You had a nice tactic here. Not
Uh,
easy.
am I moving the knight to E7? D5 to.
Yeah, attacking the rook, and he plays his rook somewhere. Rook
I don't know how
c5.
to start this, Rick. This is a serious topic now. Okay, so let's go through it. Checks. No. Captures. No. Attacks. Any
Yes,
pins?
attacks.
No.
Yes, you
Yes.
can
Is
not knight e7, but you can attack that rook in a different way.
H4.
That's not attacking the rook.
There's loads. H4 is F3 to H4.
Oh, knight h4.
D5.
All right. Knight h4, then
Uh,
he can swap the rooks, right? He can take on f1 if he wants.
okay. Uh, D5 to E3.
Yeah, you're just guessing moves now. Yeah, I want you to look for the tactic, not just guess the move.
I'm not sure how to accumulate a thought process for this. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll show you. It's not an easy tactic. Why is that so
Okay.
strong?
Oh, does it trap the rook?
It traps the rook. Beautiful, isn't it? How beautiful is that?
Rick, look, I can't see that. How am I meant to see that? A rook,
Yeah,
sorry, a pawn on its own, it exposes the king. Okay, arguably we're close to an endgame, queens him off the board. But so if the pawn was on H3 and then I played G4, I could see that. But H4, like a Hail Mary pawn, two moves. That's tough, that is, Rick.
it is. This is a tough tactic, but it's quite pretty, isn't it?
I just thought it was a knight move. It's amazing, but I thought it was a knight move.
Yeah, yeah. It's difficult. It's not easy, but yeah, I guess how do you see these things? The only way you see these things if you've seen them before, and that you see a rook on a very unusual square with not so many. But I guess you if you look at this rook, um, it doesn't have many squares.
Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't have any squares. It is checkmated. The only thing we need to do is attack it, and then yeah, then a move like g4 might come to you. Yeah,
Because when you said attack the rook, you don't think of that. You do think moving all the knights. You
of
do.
course. You look for knight forks. You look for that type of stuff. Yeah, it's hidden, but you only see this if you've seen it a number of times before. Then you spot it. Yeah,
I even thought, do you move the knight on F3 to G5, sacrificing it, and then does the rook come into play after you move the other knight to E7? I just didn't know, Rick. You know, we enter these conversations, these good topics, and you never amaze me to show me something beautiful. So anything's up for it, really.
yeah, g4 is beautiful.
Wow.
Okay, let's see. You played knight h4, and he swapped the rooks and g5.
Here
Knight
we go.
f5 check. You're still, two knights for the rook is still okay. Here's one pawn compensation.
There's a small detail as well that we're missing, I must say. You put two knights in somebody's chessboard to become two knights. You put it in my chessboard, where I won't give up. I'll keep going. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Well, here you could have just taken on d6, right? That's a pawn. Thank you
Yeah,
very much for the pawn. But you decided to give checks, which you like to do. King h5,
right.
check. King h6, check. King h5, check. And he went to h4. And you played g3 check, but you have a better move here.
Yeah, I've seen this. Is it E7 to F5?
And what does black play then?
Checkmate.
Knight f5 checkmate was there, yeah. Yeah, so
Um,
we
just important point I just want to say here. When I was delivering these checks, right now, when you first look at this, I would personally prefer the rook over two knights. I just would. They go behind pass pawns. I know knights are tricky, but they miss squares. A rook can access every square, yada yada yada. But when I had the two knights, I thought, just keep going, just see. I'm very new to this sort of end game. But what I want to say is my calibration was good because I said to myself, there's got to be a checkmate here. There's got to be. There's got to be. And there was one. I missed it, but I knew there was.
yeah. Well, I'm not as enthusiastic as you are, Aaron. I must say that to you. I thought what you did in the last few moves, you just gave checks, and
Yes.
and that must be okay. And you were very lucky that our suddenly is a checkmate because normally there is no checkmate with just two knights. Um, okay, he fell into a checkmate trap, but that was no, that was not because you played really well. You just gave checks. You did not look for a winning plan. You didn't. You just thought I'm going to give checks and then see what happens. And you're
Yeah.
good. You're too good for that now. So um, let me ask you a question. What is instead of giving checks and hoping it's checkmate, it's hope chess. What is a what is a plan for white? How is white going to try and win this game of chess? What's the plan?
Well, I'm very new to. I've never had. I don't. The reason I chose this is it's unique. To have two knights versus a rook. As I say, this is the first time I think I've been in this position.
Sure, but
So,
try to answer my question. What is
yeah,
how are
yeah,
you
yeah.
going to make progress here with white? If it's no checkmate with the two knights, how are you going to make progress? What's the plan?
Take the pawns. I take the pawns,
Yeah,
centralize the king.
yeah,
So I could take the pawn on. We could have took one already on d6. Take the one on h7, attacking the rook. Um, you know, do I play g3 just to try and take squares away? I'm already a pawn down. I'll be honest with you. I saw this and I thought I ain't got much hope here. I'm not very good at endgames as it is. So with two knights, I wasn't confident. I threw a bunch of checks. I tried to suffocate the king. You know, that's it really.
yeah. Yeah, but okay, that's what you did indeed. But I think indeed what you said here is if you want to win this game with white, you have to go after the pawns. You have to try and take pawns so that you're and then you, as you said, centralize your king and then start pushing. Once you have collected some of black's pawns, you can start to push your
Yeah,
pawns and supported by the knights and the king. Of course, black is not going to sit and let you do all that. He's going to with his rook try to get his rook active and try to get his king active, and it will be a tense fight. But that is the plan. The plan is to try and take his pawns.
yeah,
For example, if you can attack one of his pawns with your two knights and he can defend it with his rook, you always have two attackers versus one defender. And you have two pieces, he only has one. That is one big
yeah,
advantage for white. You can always attack something twice and he can only defend it once. So white is definitely better here. But you have to come up with a plan, and you were just
mm.
playing hope chess by giving checks, and that's why I'm not really thrilled by how you handled the end game.
Can I say though, if I'd got the checkmate with two knights, it's a nice checkmate with two knights, I think.
Of course, it's beautiful. Yeah, yes, no, no,
Um,
definitely. This is a very pretty picture. Knight f5 check, mate. But yeah, you were lucky
what it
that
also
you
does,
fell into it.
what it also does as well by seeing this is it gives my brain evidence that you shouldn't give up with two knights. Have confidence with two knights against a rook. You know, um,
Well, two
I
knights are
think
stronger than the rook. Of course, it depends on the position, but two
yeah,
knights are generally stronger than the rook.
yeah. I've never, as I say, I would have preferred being with the rook really because of what it can do. But
Yeah, but the knights
seeing this,
can do lots as well.
yeah, yeah, of course,
But having said that, maybe I'm being too harsh. It is a difficult endgame. This is very complicated. This is a very difficult position. Well, not this because it's checkmate, but two knights against a rook with a bunch of pawns on each side is very, very complicated, difficult to play. Um, but yeah, the winning plan is try and win pawns, centralize the king, and then push the pawns yourself. But in the meantime, black will have plans of his own. So practically, it's not so easy. Let's
yeah,
see what happened there. You played g3 check instead of mate in one, king h3. Now you took a pawn, and you
yeah,
took another one,
yeah,
and you took another one.
yeah.
But now
So
he has
I've,
counterplay
I've
with his
been
rook. Rook takes h2. Suddenly his rook is active. His rook was very passive, but now it's active. Um, Having said that, you took all those pawns, but he also has his trump cards. He can win one of your knights. How does instead of taking on h2 in this position, um, how can he win one of your
rook
knights with
f8,
a knight tactic?
rook f8.
Yeah, rook f8
Pin.
because of the pin. And another way to also win a knight. There's two tactics, two
Uh,
different tactics.
H7.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty, isn't it? Rook h7, the knights are lined up. So that's, so it's not just as simple as I said, oh, start collecting pawns. Black also has his trump cards, and that makes it difficult. But he took on h2. You kept taking pawns,
Yes.
and yeah, it looks really good now. With you have passed pawns, but his king and rook are now very active, and
Here
you
we go.
missed his threat.
How would I have defended that threat, Rick?
Yeah, you tell me.
From here, it's checkmating one, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's white to play. That's the good news.
G1.
King g1, yeah. King e1 or king g1 is the only way, really. But let's say king g1, as you say, and then he can take on g3, uh,
Oh.
threatening mate in one again.
I can't defend it, can I?
Well, you were a
Back to
move ago, you were able
H7.
to defend it. So
F1.
yeah, king f1. He cannot make progress. He's running out of material, and he cannot force the checkmate here. He can only keep trying to get it, but you just walk away.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So in the game, this is to show the viewers knight c6, and he did get the checkmate, and that's why you picked this game. But it should have really ended in a draw, even at the end. Interesting game, positional, and then suddenly it exploded in crazy tactics.
yeah. It's a good game, man. It's enjoyable. It's
Yeah,
experience, and there we go.
exactly.